Greetings, everyone. I know it's been a little bit since I last spoke in this, but oh well, you'll forgive me. And if you don't, then sorry, happens. But for those that don't know, before something along this lines, I just uploaded video game clips I thought were entertaining in some regard. But today, I wanted to do a little bit different idea. So, for those that aren't aware, which is most likely all of you, but here you go, I'm a big fan of psychology. Psychology is one of the most interesting things to me, since it's basically just the study of the brain and what makes it work. And psychology is a very interesting topic because, especially nowadays, it's very important, but not that many people actually get into the nitty gritty of it. And while I think that, for the most part, this is understandable, it's a very complex and hard to really discuss topic without some backlash, some pushback from multiple people. I think that psychology has a lot of cool ideas that can really tell you a lot about a person without even having to really delve that much into it. So, today I have a couple psychology tests that I want to introduce to you all just to see what you think would be a more either A, annoying situation, or B, a more pleasant situation. So, while Iris is here, hope you all are having a wonderful day. I hope that you don't mind the more impromptu style of this because this is something I actually really enjoy. I like videos that look like they were just recorded on an iPhone and uploaded to YouTube. I think that's a really cool style. So that's what I'm doing. Now, for your first psychology test, let's say you have two rooms. Both of them are of infinite size with infinite people. That's a pretty interesting concept, but, just bear with me. Let's say you have two rooms. Infinite size, infinite people, but the main difference between both of these rooms is that one is filled with nothing but joy. One has anything good you could imagine in the world. Any amazing food, any amazing ideas, any amazing prospects are all in that one room. And then let's say that the other room has everything bad you can think of. Things like war, famine, misery, anything like that. What would make the most interesting debate between these two? Obviously, no one's going to outright pick the war room or the bad room, right? But let's phrase it this way. If there's an infinite number of people in both rooms, every day, one person gets taken from the good room, put in the bad room. One person gets taken from the bad room, and put in the good room. Now it becomes more interesting. Which room would you volunteer to go into? And this is an interesting idea because it really depends on the person, but just bear with me. So, in one room, you have, the prospect that everything good is in there. There's nothing bad at all. So, obviously, you want to be in that one. And in the other one, it's just never ending misery. Until you eventually find your way back out of it. So, which would you pick to go in? Obviously, the good room, right? But here's the thing. When it comes to both of these, this is where the psychological aspect comes in. If you know that for an infinite amount of time, an infinite number of people, in an infinite space, one gets taken from here, put here, and vice versa. Now, which room would you pick? If you said the good room still, that's totally fine. However, some of you may have changed your mind and said the bad room. And here's why. The idea that at one point the bad things will end. It could be a day, it could be hundreds of millions of years. But at the end of the day, one person will go from this bad to this good and never have to leave again. But on the other hand, you get the good room. You're stuck in a place of nothing but joy and happiness. But with the same idea, one day it will come to an end. So the idea now becomes, would you rather live for short thrills but eventually end for misery? Or would you rather live in misery knowing it would eventually end up good? And that's where the psychological aspect comes in. It's an interesting debate because no matter what you pick, eventually you will end up happy, but also have to go through misery to get there. Now, if you choose to start in the happy room, the happiness is right in front of you. It will never end until you're placed out of that room. Judging by your odds being one out of an infinite amount, it's unlikely, but it will eventually happen just by, general sciences and math statistics. However, if you're in the bad room, the same logic applies. You will eventually go from the bad to the good, it just may take a long time. This also plays into the human idea of hope. The idea that no matter how bad it is, eventually it will end and you can go to the good room. Now, that's a more very complex scenario because it really is it's super out there. You have to really think about which is worse or better as a choice. But here's a more simple one. Let's say someone walks up to you and says, for $1,000, you can choose to never listen to your favorite song again, or be forced to listen to it for a week straight. Now that seems like a really easy choice, right? Obviously you picked a week straight because how bad can that be? It's just a week of time where you're stuck listening to your favorite song. It's your favorite song. How bad could it be? But that's where the psychology comes into it. So imagine for a second that you are sitting in, let's say, class. Your teacher's giving a presentation on whatever. We'll just say, for example, it's a history class. Your teacher is describing something very important that happened in history for a test that's next week. But you can't hear them because in your ears constantly is that song. But, on the other hand, you never hear that song again. And it will never be able to be played. Interesting debate, isn't it? Which would you pick? I'm sure some of you said the week straight, because how bad can a week straight be? I want to emphasize this. Let's say that your favorite song is 4 minutes long, right? That's about an average song length. It's about 4 minutes, maybe 4.5, but we'll say 4 minutes for math simplicity. In just 1 hour, that song will play 15 times. There's 24 hours in a day, meaning that song will play 360 times in 1 day. You can never turn it off, you can never stop it, it will constantly be playing in your ears. So now, the debate comes, well, would I rather deal with that for a week or never listen to my song again? The song I love so much. And that's where the psychology comes in. Imagine for a second this was anything other than entertainment. It was something like food. Would you rather eat the same food for a week straight or never eat that food again for $1,000? Then it becomes a lot more easy. Oh, well, I'll just eat the same thing for a week. That's not that bad. That's because the human mind has different sensitivities for what it considers a bad stimulation and a good stimulation. Taste and smell, subsequently, are what I call least sensitive senses, because if they're constantly stimulated, it's never usually that bad. If you have the constant taste of something good in your mouth, no one's complaining about that. Same with the smell. If you have a constant bad smell, you just pinch your nose and keep moving forward. If you have constant bad taste, you just try something to get rid of that bad taste. When it comes to visual overstimulation, that's definitely not that bad. Heck, people are overstimulated almost constantly thanks to these things or this thing. So that one isn't really that bad. So now it becomes, touch you can't really constantly stimulate like that without having to obstruct one of the other senses. So that leaves hearing. Hearing is, at least from what I can tell, and from my own personal tests and studies, the most sensitive of the senses. Because what is the one thing that is almost universally hated? Loud noises. If I take a pistol and shoot it right next to your eardrum, Obviously, no one's gonna like that, right? That's gonna be more painful than Drake trying to talk to a normal-aged woman. So, you really have to think which would be worse. Constant visual and audio stimulation, or none of that one kind. So now it becomes simple. Oh, okay, well then never listen to the song again. But is it? Because now you're risking losing that song forever in just return for $1,000. This is the psychological aspect of it. Does the brain consider losing something permanently or being forced to constantly hear it, never being able to get away from it for weeks straight, more worth it for the $1,000? Obviously, you can also just choose to not do it, but in this scenario, let's say you can't. You have to pick one of these two. Then it becomes a lot more interesting. Would you rather be forced to constantly hear something you can never get away from it for a week straight, or never hear it again? You get $1,000 either way. But one of them is, in my opinion, a lot more brutal than the other one. If the human mind hears something for an extended period of time that it can't identify, let's say there's a random beeping that you hear, even just for things like an hour, it will drive you insane. That's part of why audio torture is so effective, because the brain can't handle noises as much as it can anything else. So now it becomes, would you rather constantly hear something you used to enjoy for a week straight? You can't stop it. You can't get a moment of silence. It is always in your ear for 7 days. Just an interesting thing to think about. I, again, am not going to say any choice is right or wrong here, because that's not what psychology is about. It's not about saying what's correct or incorrect. It's about saying what you would rather do, or what your brain thinks is more tolerable. So for the last test, let's try something a bit more basic. This is probably the most basic one. Let's say that you come to a roadway. You don't know where you're going, but you can choose to go left or right, and each one gives you something slightly different. To the left is a town, a very basic town, with nothing necessarily bad, nothing necessarily good. It's just an average American suburbia, totally normal. Would you rather do that, or go to the right? The same exact town with the same exact aspects. The only difference is, one's constantly in the daytime, the other's constantly in the nighttime. So now the question becomes, would you rather be forced to sit somewhere and go somewhere where you are constantly exposed to an intense amount of light? It's constantly bright. You can never get rid of that brightness. You always have to wear sunglasses or something of the same sort. Or would you rather go somewhere where you can't see at all? It's pitch black outside constantly, and you can never get away from that encroaching darkness. So, essentially, this question boils down to, do you prefer day or night? But the thing about day and night is that it ends. One replaces the other eventually. In this scenario, it never goes away. And now you have to choose between, would you rather be stuck in darkness or stuck in light? It's a very simple, but a very interesting to think about concept. Because on one hand, you pick the nighttime path. Let's say that. Hypothetically, you win with the nighttime route. You are now depriving yourself of basic sunlight. You are depriving yourself of vitamins from the sun. And now, if you're someone like a Reddit mod, this is an easy choice, obviously, the eternal night, but stay with me here. So, but if you go with the daytime route, you can never sleep comfortably with the darkness because it will always be sunny. And let's just say for this example that there's no blackout curtains. You just have regular curtains, which don't work that great for stopping that amount of brightness. So now it becomes a question of, would you rather be in constant darkness or in constant light? Now, I'm not going to influence that one in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to leave that to you to think about, ponder, and hey, if you have what you think is the correct choice, or at least your choice. Feel free to let me know in the comments. But for now, I will leave you with this debate. Constant sunlight, constant darkness. Which do you think would be more tolerable? And, depending on what you say, there you go. We've accomplished 3 psychological tests. I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, let me know. I might do more impromptu videos like this. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. This is definitely going to be the most out there video, though, of mine, because personally, I love psychology. But psychology is a very touchy subject, or at the very least, not a very common subject. So, I'm going to leave it there. If you enjoy, please let me know. Like the video, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and say that you should like it, you should dislike it. But if you like it, please do let me know, and I will do more of these. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed. If you're getting to this point in the video, I assume you did enjoy, but hey. What do we know about assumptions, right? So, but anyway, thank you all. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And as always, be safe.